I know we've seen a bit of a revival in the idea of the progressive legal movement that people in the early 20th century advocated views for changing America. They felt the Constitution often blocked them from doing that, and they were very aggressive in seeking ways to subvert or get around that Constitution. Your former colleague at University of Chicago, Richard Epstein, said any constitutional doctrine that stood in the way of the comprehensive social or economic reforms, he's referring to the progressives, had to be rejected or circumvented. And he noted that the progressive influence continues to exert itself, he's talking about today, long past the New Deal in modern Supreme Court decisions that address questions of federalism, economic liberties, and takings for public use. I believe that's a dangerous philosophy. I believe that's a philosophy not justified by any judge on the court. And I'm worried about the trends. I think the American people are. Greg Craig, the former chief counsel to President Obama, who's known you for some time, I understand, said of you, she is largely a progressive in the mold of Obama himself, close quote. Do you agree with that?
Well, Senator Sessions, I'm not quite sure how I would characterize my politics, but one thing I do know is that my politics would be, must be, have to be completely separate from my judging. And I agree with you to the extent that you're saying, look, judging is about considering a case that comes before you, the parties that comes before you, listening to the arguments they make, reading the briefs they file, and then considering how the law applies to their case. How the law applies to their case, not how your own personal views, not how your own political views might suggest, anything about the case, but what the law says, whether it's the Constitution or whether it's a statute. Now, sometimes that's a hard question, what the law says, and sometimes judges can disagree about that question, but the question is always what the law says. And if it's a constitutional question, it's what the text of the Constitution says, it's what the history says, the structure, the precedent, but what the law says.